Welcome back to Reflect Politics. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem got completely schooled on the definition of habeas corpus. You know, the thing that guarantees people in the United States the right to not be detained without a public reason. You know, the right keeping us all safe from a tyrannical government. Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, the person tasked with protecting that right, couldn't define it, and she had no idea where it was in the Constitution.
The White House Deputy Chief of Staff recently said that the Trump administration is actively looking at suspending habeas corpus. Last week, you were asked about this, and I want to clarify your position because it's obviously really important to get this right. So, Secretary Noem, what is habeas corpus?
Well, habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their right to.
Let me stop you, ma'am. Habeas corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
President Lincoln used it.
Excuse me. Habeas corpus is the legal principle that requires that the government provide a public reason for detaining and imprisoning people. If not for that protection, the government could simply arrest people, including American citizens, and hold them indefinitely for no reason. Habeas corpus is the foundational right that separates free societies like America from police states like North Korea. As a senator from the live free or die state, this matters a lot to me and my constituents and to all Americans. So, Secretary Noem, do you support the core protection that habeas corpus provides, that the government must provide a public reason in order to detain and imprison someone?
Yeah, I support habeas corpus. I also recognize that the President of the United States has the authority under the Constitution to decide if it should be suspended or not.
It has never
Let us be clear, though, that this president...
It has never been done without approval of Congress. Even Abraham Lincoln got retroactive approval from Congress. So I have been asking executive branch nominees a simple question over the past few months. If the president orders them to break the law, I've been asking, will you follow the law or follow the order? I want to ask you a more specific question here. If the president tries to suspend habeas corpus and a federal court reverses the president's order, will you comply with the court order and uphold habeas corpus, or will you follow the president's directive?
We are following all federal court orders and are complying with that, as is the president, and every decision that I make as well.
That is obviously not true for anybody who reads the news. There are federal court orders right now, including returning somebody who was deported mistakenly. But to be clear, this is about a fundamental legal right that ensures that we live in a free society instead of a police state that would have a sham legal system like Russia or North Korea. So I'm glad that you have now committed to following court orders. I'm glad you believe in the basic freedom for Americans if ordered to do so by a court. And again, I want just to make clear that it is critically important that even if the president tries to suspend the right of people to know why they've been detained or imprisoned, if a federal court reverses that order, that you will follow that order. And I hope all members of the administration will, because it's obviously critical that some of the people, for instance, who've been deported by mistake, who didn't get due process, be returned in compliance with court orders.
I wanted to just go back to something that was raised earlier about habeas corpus. Can you confirm to us that you understand that any suspension of habeas corpus requires an act of Congress?
President Lincoln executed habeas corpus in the past with retroactive action by Congress. I believe that any president that was able to do that in the past, it should be afforded to our current day president. This president has never said he's going to do this. He's never communicated to me or his administration that they're going to consider suspending habeas corpus, but I do think the Constitution allows them the right to consider it.
When we saw what happened with, how many times has habeas corpus been suspended in our country?
Once that I know of.
4 times.
For certain. I'm not certain if those were...
The instance that you were referring to was one where the courts subsequently showed that Congress is the one that has the ability. Do you know what section of the Constitution the suspension clause of habeas corpus is in?
I do not. Nope.
Do you know which article it is in?
No, I do not, sir.
Okay, well, it is
The
in Article
suspension.
1. Do you know
Okay.
which branch of government Article 1 outlines the tasks and the responsibilities for?
Yes,
Which one?
Congress.
Yes. Stephen Miller has said that he is actively considering, that there is active consideration of habeas corpus. Have you had a conversation with Stephen Miller about suspending habeas corpus?
I have not.
What I'm concerned about is that you've taken the mandate to close off the border beyond going after, as you say, the, quote, most dangerous illegal immigrants. I'm a CIA officer. I worked my entire life to protect the homeland. If someone's here illegally, they need to not be here. They've committed a crime by being here. They need to go back to wherever they're from. But my concern is that either through sloppiness or intent, you have gone far beyond going after the, quote, most dangerous illegal immigrants and gone into legal immigrants who were given the ability to be here, and even American citizens. And when I think about that, you know, there are lots of people in this country, including me, who have families who fled this kind of environment where they have no rights, where they have no due process, where they don't have habeas corpus. So while I'll be the first to say, coming from a state that was won by Trump, that there is a mandate to do something about the border, I think it is absolute dangerous overreach to go beyond that and start picking up American citizens and people who have the legal right to be here, lawful immigrants who have done everything right. So first and foremost, do you acknowledge that your department has made some mistakes, any mistakes, in going after either American citizens or legal immigrants here in the time that you've been in office?
We have not deported any U.S. citizens.
Detained?
Or people get interviewed. If they get interviewed and they go through that process and we find that they're U.S. citizens or legal immigrants, they stay in the United States.
Have you deported
We have to
any
go through the vetting process.
Have any American citizens, including children, been deported during your time in office?
We have children that mothers have chosen to keep with them. So those
By my
mothers
count, you have
made
10 American citizens, including children with cancer, who have been deported out of the country. I understand you're saying it's their choice.
But the mothers,
it's hard to imagine a small child having a choice. But have you gone after legal immigrants? Again, your standard in your opening statement was the most dangerous illegal immigrants. Does that include PhD students and master's students at colleges across the country, unarmed? Are they the most dangerous illegal when they have status and no weapons?
I don't decide who gets status through a student program. The Department of State decides that, and we enforce it.
Oh, come on.
That's what our Department of Homeland Security does.
I just would offer
Those
that, again, I
programs,
have no qualms with going after folks who are here illegally. That is not my concern. That was part of my job, was to prevent people from coming here illegally in a former life. My concern is you're sending a chill down the spine of America by going after people who either have legal status or American citizens. And when my colleagues ask you about habeas corpus, and you say, literally, we can review the tape, that you believe it's a right the president has, you sat here in front of all of us and swore an oath to the Constitution, and that is not at all what habeas corpus is. It is a right that we all get, that American citizens get, that people who are in the United States legally have. So my concern is it's complete overreach. I don't think American citizens, even those who voted for Trump, believe that you should be able to just grab someone off the street, sloppy, who has the legal right to be here, and certainly an American citizen. And I just am concerned that while you say you're going after the most dangerous folks, what you're actually doing is going after folks for political reasons, right? A PhD student that's unarmed is not at the top of the list.
And we're not deporting U.S. citizens, and we're not deporting people who have legal status here.
10 American citizens
If the children have gone with their parents, it's because their parents wanted them with them.
I gotta say, I get comments nearly every day about how we all have Trump derangement syndrome, as we were trying to cover the, tyrannical wannabe fascist who's trying to strip us of our rights. Yeah, we're deranged. When Kristi Noem was asked how to define habeas corpus, and she had to do it through the lens of Donald Trump. So who really has the derangement syndrome? When your Homeland Security Secretary can't define habeas corpus, the right that makes us the country that we are. She can't define it except by the scope of Donald Trump. Absolutely pathetic. All of these, when you talk to MAGA, when you talk to these administration officials, every accusation is a confession. You have Trump derangement syndrome. This is while they're wearing hats and they've got Trump with his fight, fight, fight shirts on, and they're just typing away at their keyboards. Lunacy. And that's what we voted in to the White House. And that's why Kristi Noem is completely delusional when it comes to what habeas corpus is, where it's located in the Constitution, what it means to us as a people, as a country, as a government. What's really scary about all this, and this was brought up in other questioning during this hearing, is that we have the Olympics and we have the World Cup coming to this country, coming to the United States while Donald Trump is in office. And it's my fear that if anything happens, Donald Trump is going to use it to suspend habeas corpus and jail journalists, jail anyone who's looks, like the attackers, whether that's be race or religion. If you lived through 9/11, like many of us did, you'd understand what happened to people of Arab descent after that day. It's going to be a wild ride. And that is one of the reasons why senators are talking about this right now, is because it's bad, as Slotkin pointed out, when one American, let alone 10 Americans, are detained and their habeas corpus suspended and deported. Imagine what's going to happen when a catastrophic event perhaps does take place. When you have ignorant, dangerous people like Kristi Noem in charge, things are going to get out of control, and they're going to get out of control very quickly. And that, I think, is one of the reasons why Democratic senators are trying to pin her on this message, on the idea of habeas corpus, because there is talk of suspending it by Donald Trump. And the idea that Donald Trump, one of the most ignorant, irresponsible people on the planet, has his minions who are ignorant and irresponsible around him, the fact that they would be the ones to do it is extremely dangerous. But I want to know what your reflections are down in the comments below. Be sure to like this video and share it with your friends so that you can bring their perspectives into the conversation so we can hear what their reflections are. Thanks for watching. My name is Brendan Plank. Good luck.